we've got Ryan ready to rock and roll with the tactical board. Ryan, explain to us the moment where we were enjoying such good, you know, possession-based football just before we scored, and then explain the moment what happened, the tweak that Southampton did, and why we were stuck into that rut again.
Yeah, so I'll just say that even though Southampton started with a 4-2-3-1, they decided to press with a front three, right? With that press in front three, to put pressure on our double pivot, they decided to kind of defend with a flat midfield three as such, right? So that way they could overpower, well, outnumber the double pivot. Together would try to break passing lanes to these two number 10s. That's why they changed to that shape, right? In response to this front three, what we decided to do for many parts of the game is to set up in a back three. So if I'm right or wrong, you would notice that many times you would see Alspi drop in there as that wide
Yeah,
RCB.
you're right. You're
In
right.
response to that, what you would see many times is that um, what we would do is that to keep the width in our play outlet for that RB, many times we would see Loftus get into this position here, right? Jorginho get centrally, and then Mason become that third man in midfield here, right? At the same time, you would see Ziyech keep wide and Havertz keep wide. All of a
Yeah,
sudden, now you're seeing a 4-3-3, kind of, right? 4-3-3, kind of, if you look at it, right?
yeah. That slant
Um,
way 4-3-3.
but now I want to show you something. Yeah, when we progress play here, it's okay, but where we really see Mason Mount flourish in them few minutes was when we actually switch play, right, to this side. And why it was so important that Mason Mount flourished when we switch play to the side is because now Cucurella is free. Cucurella is free when Aspi is in the back three. So
Yeah,
that's why um, Mason Mount was allowed that freedom. What freedom, you may ask, is this here. What we did here is that you see this midfield three here. The aim was to stretch them, to stretch that midfield three, and that's when you see Mason a lot get wide here, and with Kai as that outlet. Why we need Kai as that outlet for is because he's engaging that fullback. So engaging that fullback mean Mason Mount could roam here unmarked, because Kai is engaging the fullback. What you would see here now, we talked about two conditions here. It means the condition is, first condition is Aspi making the back three so Cucurella could be free. Second condition is Havertz engaging the fullback so Mason could be free. All of a sudden here you'd see with Mason getting wide and bringing and kind of sucking in this wide midfielder. What you're going to see here is a 2v1 advantage from the wide midfielder. That is where we enjoyed a lot of link-up play with Mason because he was completely unmarked. Now, when the ball got to this point now, you would see Kai join in. And all
yeah.
of a sudden now, there would be a 3v2 advantage with Cucurella, Mason Mount, and Havertz. So many times what you would see here is that you would see Ziyech getting into number 10 areas. You'd see a pass to Kai and then Mason running in behind. How many times you see that
And
here? And then
this is exactly how the first goal transpired.
yeah, all of a sudden now you would have Raheem inside here, and then a lot of options because then Loftus was at the overlap, etc. Or Aspi even would overlap, and then it would be like that, right? So you all saw that, right? But what
100%. This is what we saw before the goal, and that's what we were like excited, like, oh wow, Mount's looking good, Havertz looking good, everything's looking rosy.
so what actually was the premise for all this happening was that numerical advantage. The
Yeah,
first numerical advantage being 2v1 with this wide midfielder here, and then 3v2 with the fullback and the wide midfielder here. That's what made it happen. But it all stemmed from building play from Azpi as that wide CB. Now, I believe it was not a tactical change what Southampton did. I think Southampton wasn't very good defensively, if I'm being honest with you. It was just the times where we built play with the same back three, but this time Cucurella was in the back three as that ball player to kind of suck in that front three press. Now Azpi roam forward to overlap. That is where you'd see Ziyech coming as a 10, etc. etc. Same DM movement here. You'd probably see instead of Loftus-Cheek being wide, you'd see Loftus getting to a more number 6 role now.
True.
And then you'd see Jorginho more here, right?
Yeah.
What you'd see, Miz, is that obviously Jorginho isn't going to roam all here and stuff, right? Jorginho will be sitting still, regardless of where Loftus is, right? He'll be sitting or trying to become a passing option here for Cucurella. What you'd see now is, Miz, that when Cucurella tried to find a forward passing option, and since Cucurella has to be a LCB, right? A ball playing LCB and can't roam freely like before, what you'd see now is that Mason is now 1v1 with that wide midfielder instead of being 2v1 with the wide midfielder. That means that when Mason receives the ball, he has to receive it on the turn under pressure and has to turn with it and try to let go of Havertz in wide areas or try to let go of Sterling or try to get it to Ziyech. That's what he has to do. He has to have that 1v1 ability to beat the first man, get into the pockets, and now all of a sudden you have 3 near options and also the option to switch. That's what the best number 8s and number 10s do in the world when they are 1v1 with players. Unfortunately, Mason Mount does not have that quality to beat that man 1v1. So many of what you would see is that now Kai has to drop way deeper and he has to link play with Kai. Now we are completely isolated now because Raheem is still central, Ziyech is still wide, and now you have a setup like this. There's no players close to each other anymore. There is no connection of play. Why? Because Mason couldn't beat that one player. Havertz has to come, and all we would see is this. Pass it to Mace, pass it to Kai, and then one of them would lose the ball because both of them are not good 1v1. And that's what happened for the goal.
So Ryan, are you saying Southampton just, instead of keeping Cucurella free for the first 20, 25 minutes, they started to push it to the fact that, well, you're not going to be free anymore. You're now going to be forced to play, and we allow the room for Azpilicueta instead. Is that what sort of transpired?
They're pressing Cucurella more aggressively, so that means Cucurella had to drop to make the back three. Right? To get space. He wasn't getting space up here anymore, so you need to get space here. And now Azpi would roll, and that's why when we start playing bad, you realize now Azpi is losing the ball here. When we were playing good,
did we see that? Yeah.
When we were good, Azpi was here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But when we were bad, Azpi was here. But it had a chain reaction. Now Cucurella was here. And while Cucurella is amazing at ball playing here, this man here, Mason Mount, isn't good at ball retention under pressure, nor is Havertz good at running in behind here from a long ball and being 1v1 as a winger. And then what you'd see now is that to end up, I know this is a chain reaction now. We know that Mason can go 1v1, so what has to happen is Jorginho has to roam a little bit.
Yeah, and then be out of position.
Now, all of a sudden, what you're seeing here now is that Mason lose the ball, Jorginho out of position.
This is exactly how that second goal happened. This is exactly how that second goal
happened. Where did it all come from, Miz? Simple. When
Mason Mount had the ball up front, yeah.
When your number 10s and wingers have no ball retention, they will always have to have overcompensating to happen. And that overcompensating, you're going to get fined out. Because in order to overcompensate for somebody, that means you have to double up in a certain area, which you're leaving another area free. And people say, what about Jorginho? We have to overcompensate for him too. I agree. My belief is that eventually we'd have to stop overcompensating for players from all positions, both in the DM role and in attack. So That's just our explanation then, Miss. I wasn't really sure if I'd have time to do this tomorrow. So if you want, you could clip this, because I think a lot of
Yeah,
people
I will clip this. I just got a couple of questions just quickly, just so that the live chat gets a complete picture. Ryan, let's say for argument's sake, we were to change Jorginho to, let's say, Declan Rice in that position. Does that change anything? Does that actually change anything? Because I want the whole picture to be presented here. Let's say Jorginho is Declan Rice and he's in those areas. Does that actually change anything?
And also on top of this, Jorginho, very quickly, Ryan, what if we bring in a new player like Aubameyang? How does the scenario change?
Well, it doesn't, because it changes when we could get the ball from here to here or here to here. So all those chances Havertz have gotten and wasted, or the link-up play would definitely be better with Aubameyang too. But at the end of the day, it's all about we successfully get it from the first third to the second third. But the problem is many times we don't get it from the second to the final third. And then the other problem is the rare times we do get to the final third, players like Havertz can't put it away. So it's a more than one problem, to be honest. I think that is so important that whoever comes, we need someone who could go 1v1 in these areas. We need someone who could help it.
I guess the only thing I can think of is if Declan Rice was there, then the player doesn't just skip past Declan Rice like that. The way that Southampton player just brushed aside Jorginho, and then from there Jorginho had no legs. But the fact still remains, going forward, Mason still wouldn't be able to go 1v1. You would still need to find a way to get the ball to Aubameyang. So bringing Aubameyang up front, it's like, what's the difference? You got Sterling there. Unless you have Sterling where Havertz is, and maybe what Mason can do is lay it off to Sterling and then allow Sterling to go 1v1, as opposed to Kai, which is also the similar situation with Mason, because Kai can't go 1v1. That's the only situation that I can see that if certain people are saying, look, change Jorginho to a proper DM, give us a proper holding midfielder, sure, that could probably help us out in certain cases. I'm not denying that fact. But bringing Oba in, you then have to start thinking about putting Sterling in those LS position where we've said Havertz is at the moment. So bottom line, someone's in attack, someone's got to be able to take another defender on. That's the bottom line, man. Got to be able to take your players on.
Yeah,
and in
so
defense,
that was just it, Rumble. And defense has a whole different story. That's a whole different.
And defense, we've already touched on how Aspi is much better when he's playing in the back three area as opposed to pushing up into those wing back areas. That's when in transition, people start finding all those gaps behind Aspi as well. Aspi then loses his sense of direction. So many times Aspi had to kick it out for corner. It was Aspi's clearance. He kicked it out for a corner that led to the first goal. It was still shambolic defending. Don't get me wrong. Like, why are we so deep into our the goalkeeper's section, and we didn't even anticipate the second ball? It was as if we were going to get the corner and we're just going to clear it out, and it's going to go very far. We didn't even anticipate that the ball could perhaps fall just outside the box for a Southampton player to bang it in. And it's sad. Ladies and